Good morning. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out this morning. This is a very emotionally charged day for us at Rockefeller. We're very excited about the news about the Nobel Prize, but also very saddened about Ralph's passing. I'm going to ask our president, Mark Tessier-Levine, to come up to the podium to say a few words about Dr. Steinman. He'll be followed by Michelle Nussensweig. He was Ralph's first student and one of his close collaborators. And after Michelle is finished, we'll have members of the family up here to say some words. And after that, we'll open it up for questions. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Well, today's a bittersweet day for us at the university. We're delighted that Ralph Steinman's truly groundbreaking research on dendritic cells was honored by the Nobel Committee. However, we are all deeply saddened by his death. On behalf of the university, I'd like to offer our condolences to Ralph's wife, Claudia, his son, Adam, his daughters, Alexis and Leslie, and his grandchildren. Ralph Steinman was the Henry G. Kunkel Professor at Rockefeller University. He was also head of the Laboratory of Cellular Physiology and Immunology, a senior physician at the Rockefeller University Hospital, and director of the Christopher H. Brown Center for Immunology and Immune Diseases. Ralph's research career began here at Rockefeller in 1970 when he became a postdoc in the Laboratory of Cellular Physiology and Immunology, headed by Zanvil Cohn and James G. Hirsch. Ralph's research is focused on the immune system, which is an extraordinarily complex operation. Using numerous different cell types capable of recognizing harmful foreign substances, the immune system organizes a response, carries out attacks, and ultimately guards against future invasions. The coordination required for such a system to work is gargantuan in scope and attests to a high degree of evolutionary sophistication. Immunity's chain of command begins with specialized cells called antigen-presenting cells, a class of cells that act as sentinels, constantly on the lookout for unwelcome invaders, such as pathogenic viruses and bacteria. Now, into the early 1970s, immunologists believed that the chief antigen-presenting cells were macrophages, white blood cells that form one regiment in the immune system. But that view was turned on its ear when Ralph and Zan identified the cell type that is almost singularly responsible for commanding the efforts of all other immune cells, the dendritic cell. In a few minutes, I'll ask Michelle Nussensweig to step up to the podium and tell you more about Ralph's groundbreaking research. Michelle is the Sherman Fairchild Professor of Immunology here at Rockefeller University, and as Joe mentioned, he was Ralph's first student and subsequently one of his very close collaborators and friends. But before I do that, let me first tell you a little bit more about Ralph as a person. Ralph was born in Montreal, Canada. He received a bachelor's degree with honors from McGill University in 1963 and an MD magna cum laude from Harvard Medical School in 1968. He completed an internship and residency at the Massachusetts General Hospital in 1970, after which he joined the Rockefeller University as a postdoctoral fellow. He was appointed an assistant professor in 1972 and promoted to associate professor in 1976 and professor in 1988. He was named Henry G. Kunkel Professor in 1995 and director of the Christopher H. Brown Center for Immunology and Immune Diseases in 1998. He was an elected member of the National Academy of Sciences and its Institute of Medicine. And the scientific community has already recognized Ralph's contributions by bestowing upon him many other honors, including New York City's Mayor's Award, the Gairdner Foundation International Award, the Albert Lasker Award for Basic Medical Research, the Heineken Prize, and the Albany Medical Center Prize in Medicine and Biomedical Research. Now, before I hand it over to Michelle, I do want to just say a couple of words about one of the other recipients of the Nobel Prize today, Bruce Beutler, because Bruce was also affiliated with our university. Between 1983 and 1985, he was a postdoctoral fellow here. He became an assistant professor in 1985 and was also an associate physician at the Rockefeller University Hospital between 1984 and 1986. Then in 1986, he returned to the University of Texas Southwestern Medical School, where he earned his medical degree, and in 2000 he moved to the Scripps. But now I would like to turn our attention back to Ralph Steinman and invite Michel to talk about the research that earned him the Nobel Prize.
Good morning. Ralph would have been thrilled to see all of you here. And it's terrible that he's not here to see this. What I'd like to do is just tell you a little bit about what Ralph discovered and how he discovered it. It's really an amazing story. When Ralph got here to Rockefeller, it was known that immune cells were somehow involved in responding to antigen, and that lymphocytes, T and B lymphocytes, were the key responders. And it had just become clear that they were unable to do the job by themselves, that they needed something else. Something else was something that stuck to glass. And so what Ralph, working in Zan's lab, did was something that people at that time hardly did anymore, was to look through the microscope at what stuck to glass. And what he found was striking, was a cell that looked different. And he intuited that that cell was the missing link in making immune responses. And so he spent quite some time trying to purify those cells. And by the time I joined him as a student, he had managed to do that. And furthermore, with Maggie Whitmer, who was his technician and worked with him throughout this time, shown that dendritic cells, as he called them, could speak to, interact with T lymphocytes in something called the allogeneic mixed lymphocyte reaction. What I did with Ralph was to show that dendritic cells, in fact, presented antigens to T cells and made them into effector cells that could go on and kill and get rid of pathogens. And then subsequently, of course, these experiments were reproduced by many, many laboratories. Now, one of the interesting things about Ralph and his discovery is that no one believed it for a really long time. What's amazing about Ralph was that he just knew, even though nobody else believed it, that this was really important. And he persisted, and he kept at it, and finally, after a very long time, everyone just found out that it was true. Everybody could do it after a while, but it took forever. I just want to say that Ralph worked right up until last week. His dream was to use his discovery to make vaccines. And it's a dream that's pretty close. And we're all going to continue to work to make that come true. So with that, just introduce his family. So Adam, Alexis, Leslie.
Thank you all so much for being here, and thank everyone for these kind words. It's really impossible to describe what our family is feeling right now. Of course, we're devastated to have lost Ralph over the weekend, but at the same time, we are deeply thankful for the many amazing years we were able to have with him after he was diagnosed 4.5 years ago. And of course, we're so incredibly proud of Dad for receiving this wonderful honor. Our dad was passionately devoted to both his family and his work, and the two often overlapped. Family vacations would center around immunology conferences around the world. I actually remember coming into lab with him when I was quite young, and I still recall over in room 413 of the Bronx building when he showed me my first spleen, which at the time was still in the mouse to whom it belonged. His passion for science invigorated those who worked with him, I know. His continuing mantra, "Science has no borders," motivated him to travel incessantly, really creating an international community of equally eager scientists. For our dad, it was really about collaboration, not competition. There's a Japanese proverb, none of us is as smart as all of us, that truly sums up Ralph's affection and belief in his colleagues. All of these awards and accolades he accepted with humility and grace, and tried to use these honors to galvanize the entire field of immunology. It is very sad that our dad won't be here to see what dendritic cells do next, but it would be his greatest wish to see the incredible honor of this Nobel Prize help to build further momentum for research in this area to which he devoted his life and his career. There are so many members of Dad's family all over the world who are both grieving his loss and celebrating this unbelievable moment, including up in Canada, where he grew up and where his mother, our grandmother, Nettie Steinman, will turn 95 this month. And most importantly, of course, our mom, Ralph's wife and partner, Claudia Steinman, who has been so strong through all of this, and without whose support for Ralph and for our family really helped make this remarkable achievement possible. I'm sure Dad is looking at us with this infectious smile of his, and we know he will live on through his scientific contributions, the many people with whom he collaborated, and even in his 3 grandchildren, in whom we all see a bit of Dad every day. Life and death truly work in mysterious ways, and in speaking with him during his final days, he was very adamant that we focus on living and not on grieving after he passed. So let's celebrate Dad's life and this wonderful accomplishment. Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you.
Questions?
Hi, Michelle Nichols from Waters. Condolences and congratulations all at the same time. I just wanted to ask, did Dr. Steinman have any indication at all that this might become, that he was going to win the Nobel Prize?
Ralph had been nominated for a long time. And as Günther said when he got this, after a while you just forget about it.
How do you think he would have felt about receiving this prize?
Oh, he would have been thrilled. He would have been thrilled about this.
Are there any other questions?
I don't know if there's a way to put this properly and delicately, but what happens to the Nobel Prize in this case?
I think that that's for the Nobel Prize Committee to decide.
Sandy?
Michelle, what would you say are perhaps some of the most exciting upcoming tests of dendritic cells?
You know, what Ralph was working on when he passed away was a way to deliver the antigen directly to the dendritic cell in order to make a new form of vaccine. Give the antigen to the right cell, that was the idea. And this is something that Sarah Schlesinger here is going to be testing in people. So that's pretty exciting.
Up there in the back?
How did you receive the news this morning? Who was the first one to hear about it? How was it disseminated?
Do you want? Okay. We heard about first we heard about the Nobel Prize at 5:30, and then a little bit after that, maybe 30 minutes, we heard from the family that Dr. Steinman had passed away over the weekend. Dr. Wiesel?
I just wanted to say that Ralph was in Stockholm and gave a lecture in the spring. So in some ways, this was a possibility. I was worried that he, because of his illness. And so in some ways, he was received in Stockholm and by all the academic faculty there. And I think that was I looked upon it as his, if he couldn't survive, that he would receive the Nobel Prize at that time. So in some ways, I think he has been there and everybody knows him. And so at the time of the award, I think his wife will be invited. And so it will be another occasion like this that people will celebrate him again.
Perhaps I should say this is Dr. Torsten Wiesel, himself a Nobel laureate and president emeritus of Rockefeller University.
Okay. If there are no other questions, we'll conclude at this time. Members of the media, if you wish, we can take you up to Dr. Steinman's laboratory if you want to get photos or some film. Ask you to meet outside in the lobby of the building, and we'll have volunteers out there to help you get organized. Okay? Thank you very much.